Welcome back to the GSMC Dead Ball Sports Podcast, hosted by GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Nolan Jammer. Today, we're taking a look inside the NBA and the NFL. We're talking NBA playoffs, recap of last night's game, going to talk about tonight's game. Also, we're going to the NFL, like I said. We're going to Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers, talk about what's going on over there, and Demaryius Thomas being inducted into the Broncos Hall of Fame. We're going to end it off talking about the MLB. Before we get into any of that, however, tips and donations. Tips and donations are always greatly appreciated. If you wish to show your support to this channel and you happen to be in the live stream and you want to tip or donate, feel free to use the super chat or the sticker feature to do that. And if you're not in the live stream, the two links in the bio and in the description. Even if you don't wish to tip or donate and you still want to show your support, feel free to leave a comment, YouTube comment section, live stream comment section, whatever. If you want to leave a comment, just let us know you're here. Throw it in the comment section. It's great always being able to talk to the fans, talk to people listening, watching, whatever. So leave a comment if you want to have a question and you want me to answer it. But like I said, if you do wish to tip or donate and you happen to be in the live stream, feel free to do that by using the super chat or the sticker feature. If you're not in the live stream, the two links in the bio and in the description. With that being said, let's get into topic number one for today. So, the NBA Conference Finals. Last night, I guess we'll do like a little recap. It's basically just like a recap of last night's game. Last night, Indiana versus New York, Game 5. Excuse me. Game 4, sorry. Game 4 last night, Indiana takes the lead 3-1. And this series has honestly gone the way I expected it to. I saw Indiana winning this series. I mean, yeah, they're still, New York still, can't come back. It's not over yet. But still, I mean, Indiana has a 3-1 lead going to New York for Game 5. And I think maybe New York can win Game 5, but, in New York. But then, honestly, they would have to they'd go back to Indiana for Game 6. And I think their series is done. They had a great run, but I honestly don't see them getting past Game 6. I think they're done either next game or Game 6 when they're back in Indiana. I just think they've been outplayed, and their bench play, excuse me, but I think they're the Knicks, fatigue is a big factor with the Knicks, Their coach likes, play their starters most of the game. Jalen Brunson, Hart, Mikal Bridges, Cat, Mitchell Robinson, whatever. They're getting a lot of minutes with not a lot of rest. And fatigue towards the end of the stretch, come play, like towards the end of the playoffs, like the spot they're in right now, Eastern Conference Finals. That fatigue gets to you. You become what you get wear down, you get really tired, and you can't play, you play your best basketball. And that's what's happening. It's starting to show. New York had a great game last night. They didn't get blown out. They lost by like 5, I believe. They kept it close the entire game. It was never a blowout. And it just sucks because you see New York New York's a great team. You cannot doubt that. New York is a phenomenal team. They really are. But Indiana just plays better. They play better. They're better as a team, and they have more bench support than the Knicks do. They have a lot of guys. They have better depth, I'll say, than the Knicks. Not the best in the NBA, obviously, but they have really good bench depth for the Eastern Conference, and that's what they've been able to kind of dominate against the Knicks so far in the series. When they're benching their starters, like Miles Turner, Tyrese. Excuse me. They're getting benched, but then you're putting in, you're putting in guys that say, like, Andrew Nembhard's coming off the bench. Or, just any guys coming off the bench willing to step into that role they have to fill, and they do it well. They're not putting up, superstar numbers, but they're putting up numbers that are good enough to keep them on the court and keep them winning games. And that's why they're winning games, because, they're able to do that. Also, another contributor, Tyrese Haliburton. He's been playing great this whole series. He's obviously hit that game 2 buzzer beater, sent up to overtime with a win. They had, he dropped a triple-double last night, 34 points, 12 assists, like 10 boards, or 15 assists, 12 boards. He had a phenomenal night last night. He had nothing short of a great night last night. He really did. And that's another reason they're playing so good. Just because, they're not, I wouldn't consider Tyrese Halliburton, the greatest player in the world, but he's a phenomenal player. He's not the greatest, but he's very good. He is a phenomenal, player. He's a floor general. I will say he's like Chris Paul. I'll compare him to Chris Paul. He's not, he's not a shooter. He's a passer. And, he finds the right guy to pass the ball to. He really does. And when he wants to, pass or he wants to shoot instead of pass, he's making his shots. He's a very consistent shooter, shooting, I think it's like 40% from 3-point. I mean, he's got a really good 3-point shot. He's a great, overall shooter as well. He's just he makes a lot of shots. He takes contested shots, or, creates space to, make room to shoot. And, when he wants to be hot, when he wants to shoot, he's keeping the ball and he's pulling it. And most of the time it's going in because he's just a very consistent shooter and a very consistent player overall. But, New York, they got all-stars. Obviously, he got Jalen Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns, Mikal Bridges. I mean, they got some all-stars as well. Compared to, you look at those rosters and you think, you would think New York would win this series in 5. But, because they just have, better overall talent, you feel like. But their bench, like I've been saying, their bench isn't where, it needs to be. They need more guys able to come off the bench and, keep them in the game without, the fear of having to, the bench players losing them the game or, choking leads away. And that's why they keep their starters in the whole time because, they don't trust, I guess you could say, the bench players, which, it's a back and forth scenario. You can't bench the starters because then you're scared the bench will give it up. You don't want to, you don't want to put in the starters or rest the starters because, like I said, they'll give up the lead, and you don't want to put in the bench players because they're going to give up the lead. So you just keep the starters on the floor the whole time, which eventually and inevitably will tire them out, fatigue them, make them play worse, make them play slow, and it just doesn't work out. And Coach Thibodeau, he needs to finally understand that. He really does. He's been coaching in this league for a while. He's won a few Coach of the Year awards, I think twice, and you would think that he would learn from his mistakes, learn to adjust, but he never does. He really never does. He always just keeps in, the same 6 or 7 guys. Well, Indiana, a lot, and every other team in the NBA likes to rotate between, 9, 10, 11 players. It just keeps them in the game. It keeps their starters healthy, rested, and able to come back out and play their best basketball. But yeah, like I said, this series 3-1 Indiana's favor heading back to New York for Game 5. Game 5 is the only game I could see New York winning. But if they end up winning that game, they're going back to Indiana and losing in 6. That's just the truth. It really is. I think Indiana's a really good basketball team. They've played great this whole playoff series. They really have. And they honestly have been one of the best teams this playoff. And if they come out of this alive, there is a high chance they beat, OKC or whoever. The Timberwolves, I'll talk about that next segment. But whoever comes out of the West alive, I can totally see them beating them and, going far. So we'll have to wait and see. But right now, that's a prediction. Pacers win in 5 or 6 and then end up, possibly taking home the NBA championship, the 2025 NBA championship. So I got for this segment. Next segment, stick with the NBA. We're talking about Minnesota versus OKC. We'll get to that after the break.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Welcome back to the GSMC Dead Ball Sports Podcast, hosted by GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Nolan Jamber. First segment, talked NBA, talked about the recap of the New York Knicks versus Indiana Pacers game last night, and we talked about, the future of that series. This segment, still talking about the NBA. We're talking, the NBA tonight, which is just OKC versus Minnesota. But before we get into that, tips and donations. Tips and donations are always greatly appreciated. If you happen to be in the live stream and do wish to tip or donate, feel free to do that using the super chat or the sticker feature. If you're not in the live stream and wish to tip or donate, feel free to do that by using the 2 links in the bio and in the description. Even if you don't wish to tip or donate and you still want to show your support for the channel, feel free to leave a comment section or leave a comment in the YouTube comment section or the live stream. I'll see that and I'll respond to that as fast as I can. I love seeing, when you guys, want to leave a comment. It's great being able to, see the fans, I guess, kind of follow along and, have questions of their own. Just type in the chat. I love talking to you guys. It's my job. It's what I'm here for. I love sports. Just any sport question or any question in general, throw it in the chat. I'll get to that as soon as I can. But like I said, if you do wish to show your support for the channel and happen to be in the live stream, feel free to tip or donate by using the super chat or the sticker feature. If you're not in the live stream and do wish to tip or donate, feel free to do that by using the 2 links in the bio and in the description. That being said, let's get into topic number 2 for the day. That being NBA tonight. With that, I'm just meaning, OKC versus Minnesota. So, tonight, Game 5, OKC versus Minnesota. In the favor of the series is, OKC. They're up 3-1. And tonight, I really think will be the end of the series. I think tonight, OKC... I'm sorry, I'm busy. I'm yawning a lot today. They're just happening, they've been dominating this whole series. That's all I got for you guys. No, I'm joking. But, that's really all I can say. They have just been the better team. In every series they've played in this playoff series, they have been the better team every time. They really have. And this series, Western Conference Finals, is no exception. They're that good of a team. They really are. They have dominated. They almost swept the Grizzlies. No, they did sweep them. Did they? I already forgot. I feel like it was months ago. But it was no-brainer. Everybody had them winning. Almost lost to the Nuggets. I thought the Nuggets were going to win that series. They did not. But, they beat the Nuggets in 7. And now they are going to beat, maybe I'm jinxing them, who knows. But I think they beat them tonight in Game 5. I really do. I think OKC is just the better overall team in every way. They're playing, at 8:30 tonight at in OKC as well. It's in OKC for Game 5 with, OKC lead. I just don't see Minnesota coming out of this game. I just don't. SGA has been playing great this whole series. Let's talk about the Thunder. Yeah, talk about the Thunder first because I already mentioned SGA. SGA, like I said, has already been playing great this whole series. He's just having one game he had a poor night. They lost by 40, but still. That just happened to be an off night. That was, it's never happening again. But it happened one night they lost, and now every game they win, he's putting up 25, 30 points, so who cares? It doesn't really matter. But, what can I say? OKC is the better team overall. There really isn't much more to say. SGA is a great player. Chet Holmgren, he's been playing good. Hartenstein's been playing all right. Lou Dort, great defender. Jalen Williams, great player. They got great bench depth. Caruso, other Jalen Williams. They just got, phenomenal players on both sides of the ball for them. They really do. They have been playing phenomenal. Their entire bench, just in general. They got their starting 5, and you got guys coming off the bench who are just able to keep them in the game and honestly take over games as well. Caruso, one of the best defending guards in the NBA right now. has proved himself over and over to be, a great defending guard. He really has. He's been dominating both sides of the ball. He's not, I guess a scorer he used to be, but on the defensive side of the ball, he's an absolute threat. He really is. You are not scoring on him if you have the ball. You really aren't. He's just that tight of a defender. He plays just so aggressive, and he's just not letting you get by. He really isn't. That's really all I can say about OKC. I can't, yeah, everybody kind of complains about them, well, not really them in general, just kind of SGA being, like a free throw merchant, and that, bad rep kind of leaks on to the OKC team in general. But besides that, OKC is just a great team. They've built this entire team up. They have infinite trade. They have so many first-round picks in the next few years. This team is just, they never traded for any superstars. They just happen to, get a lot of good players, some trades, drafting good players. They just are a great team built from the ground up. And this is going to be the worst OKC team we see for years coming. This team is so young, and there's still so much to develop in a lot of these guys, that this is going to be the worst OKC team we see for maybe 5, 6, or 7 years. This team is so good. SGA is now available to sign, it was a 5-year, $700 million contract, or $500 million contract or something like that. That's insane, because they just won the MVP. That's insane. And, even if he manages to, kind of have, like a bad, down year, their team is still so talented that even if, one of their starters has, I guess you'd say an off year, they're still going to be dominant. They just have so many guys able to come up and fill the spot. It's okay. And that's why I don't see, Minnesota beating them. Minnesota's a great team. They got great players, Gobert, Mike Conley, obviously Anthony Edwards. Their team is great. But comparing that to, OKC, it's not possible. They're just not, they're not good enough to be competing with them. They really aren't. They're losing. They lost a lot of these games because their starters aren't playing well. Naj Reid has not been playing well either. They just haven't been getting the job done on either side of the floor. And OKC, obviously, taking advantage of that, scoring on a lot of easy transition buckets, getting steal points, getting a steal and scoring off that. Just quick transition buckets, threes. They're just, OKC has been the better team this playoff. They really have. They have been the overall better team. They will be the better team going into the finals because, like I said, they are going to win tonight. Take this, series. This series is done. Series ends tonight in 5 in OKC, and they're going to the finals for the first time since 2014. And hopefully they can raise that first banner, that first OKC banner, not Seattle SuperSonics banner, not first time in its team's history, the first time in OKC, history, where they're gonna be able to raise the banner and call a championship their own. And I'm honestly, I wouldn't be opposed, because I think this OKC team is that good of a team. They kind of deserve it. They really do. They are the best team overall in this NBA this year. They are the best team. Honestly, one of the best teams we've seen in a while. I think this Thunder team right now could beat last year's Celtics team, could beat the 2022 Warriors. And honestly, probably the 2023 Nuggets. I think maybe too. But this whole series in general, this OKC, as much as I've been talking good on them, I really can't kind of describe how good this team really is. They are just that good of a team. I'm not even an OKC fan. I'm from Michigan. I'm a Pistons fan. But this team, has dominated the way to the playoffs besides that Nuggets series. And tonight, they will win tonight, go to the finals, and honestly, possibly raise the first banner in the Oklahoma City Thunder, their history. I think totally possible, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it happen. That's all I got for you guys in this segment. Next segment, we're going to the NFL, talking about Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers. So we'll get to that after the break.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Welcome back to the GSMC Dead Ball Sports Podcast, hosted by GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Nolan Jammer. First two segments to talk NFL, or NBA, talk about last night's game and preview tonight's Minnesota vs. OKC Thunder Game 5 in OKC. Talk about that. This segment number 3, we're talking Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers. So, Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers has been a very ongoing, talk for a while. It's been going on for a while. What's going to happen? Oh, excuse me. And, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, they are frustrated, I guess you'd say, with their, current quarterback situation. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. They really don't have, a quarterback who's reliable. I wouldn't really call, any of the quarterbacks they have, a starting legit quarterback. But, today, Terry Bradshaw, Steelers Hall of Fame quarterback, and former Steelers quarterback Terry Bradshaw, he talked pretty bad on the Steelers situation. It was actually yesterday. But he criticized the team for, what should I say? Mishandling, yeah. I guess you say that mishandling the development of Kenny Pickett, the quarterback they drafted 3 years ago, and, kind of pushed away the pursuit of, Aaron Rodgers. So, I wouldn't say pushed away, but they're just kind of taking it way too slow. They're not making any big plays to go and get them. They're just kind of, they're just waiting to kind of see what Aaron Rodgers does. And, that's not what you need to be doing in your quarterback. You're in an organization. You need to go get after him to make sure you have a guy set in place. Because you need him before spring training starts to, not even that, just before, not spring training, just kind of mini camp, just training camp starts. I mean, you need a quarterback who's going to be able to run the system and run it well. And, like I said earlier, Bradshaw was very not happy with, the organization, the quarterback situation, a lot of other stuff. And one thing he said was that he liked Kenny Pickett. He was their first round pick in 2022. Granted, that quarterback class back then wasn't very good, but he was the Steelers' first round pick in 2022. And, they wanted to, what's the word? They wanted to run the football, but they also didn't have a good offensive line to make running the ball happen as, possible, I guess. And he had no wide receivers back then either. So they kind of put Kenny Pickett in a really bad spot, and they kind of shipped him off basically for no reason, because none of it was his fault. He had no receiver. His wide receiver one at the time, I believe, wasn't even George Pickens. He wasn't even drafted yet. It might have been Juju was gone. I don't even know what receiver he had at that 2022 at that time. But, and, so he kept kind of criticizing the Steelers, the organization. Bradshaw did. He said, and I quote, this is a very long quote, "Then they throw the kid in there for 2 years, and you got an offense that doesn't fit and doesn't work. And they can't run because their offensive line's not even good enough to run for a run-blocking team. Now they're saying Kenny Pickett's a failure. He wasn't a failure. The Steelers were a failure." That was his, that was his quote. And I think that's totally, sorry, something in my throat. But, I mean, he's not wrong at all. He is not wrong whatsoever in blaming, this organization for their mishaps, for what's going on. He He's completely right in every way. Their offense back then in 2022, their defense was still good, but their offense was not. Like I said, there was no receiving there. His offensive line was horrible. They really didn't have, I would say a phenomenal running back to even run it. So their offense was really in a really bad spot. And, excuse me. Ugh. That's disgusting. But in 2024, this past offseason, they were looking to get 2 quarterbacks. The Bear, one guy that had a key eye on it was Justin Fields and Russell Wilson from the Seahawks. And they both ended up going to free agency in New York. One of the Jets and Justin Fields, and Russell Wilson to the Giants. And so now they don't even have a quarterback because Kenny Pickett, he's gone. He's in Cleveland, but he was in Philly. He's got a ring last season, so congrats to him. But he had a decent season. He's had a not a horrible career. 15-10. Horrible career, I wouldn't say. His touchdown to interception ratio is 15 touchdowns to 14 picks, so that's kind of interesting, with 4,700 passing yards. So, Kenny Pickett honestly would probably be their best situation right now because, Aaron Rodgers is just not it. And, I mean, they really got nothing. Aaron Rodgers doesn't have what he used to. You saw that in the Jets. He made a few flashy plays here and there, but he doesn't have the skill that he used to have. And Bradshaw kept kind of acknowledging that. He was saying it's a joke, signing him for 1 year and then him he's probably not gonna do well, and just kind of wasting this team. And he was basically telling him he needs to stay in California. And he said, and I quote, "Go somewhere and chew on bark and whisper to the gods out there." I kind of like that. He's kind of standing his ground, with this whole situation, saying, I don't stand with this. I think it's really stupid what we're doing. Like, he doesn't like how the Steelers are kind of running their organization. I think he's completely right. Trying to go after Aaron Rodgers, who obviously hasn't really done much the past few years. He's kind of, I wouldn't say losing his mind, but he's just kind of doing everything for attention now. He's trying to stay in the spotlight. And that's just not going to work. I mean, yeah, it works. Steelers kind of need him. But, because look at their other 2 starting quarterbacks. Mason Rudolph and the Dolphins, third string quarterback from last year, Skylar Thompson. They got Will Howard, too, out of the 6th round. So that's a good pickup. But, honestly, it's going to be a battle between Mason Rudolph and Will Howard if Aaron Rodgers inevitably doesn't go here. If he goes somewhere else, it's going to be Will Howard starting. I guarantee it. Because Mason Rudolph is not good. But, Mason Rudolph is, the most tenured quarterback out of those 3 I just named. He obviously, Will Howard just got drafted. But he has, he's been playing. He played 5 seasons with the Steelers before going to Tennessee last year for a 1-year deal. And now he's back again in Tennessee. And he's had, some success here and there, but, nothing crazy. And Aaron Rodgers last year last season with the Jets, he didn't have a bad season whatsoever, I guess you could say. 63% percentage, completion percentage, 3.8K passing yards with 28 touchdowns, 11 picks. That's pretty solid. But he had Devontae Adams over there in New York, so, that's a big help. But, but time will only tell, how the Steelers will, kind of, if they'll listen to Terry's words, what will happen. Because if they don't sign him, even if they do sign him, they will be kind of destined to be another mediocre team, maybe 10 wins, somehow make the playoffs. But, they haven't won in the playoffs. This stat's insane. They haven't won a playoff game since 2016. They've made it every year since then, but haven't won once. It's kind of crazy to think about, but just shows kind of how mediocre they are as a team. They are a very mediocre team. They really don't have, a lot of talent. They'll make the playoffs somehow and lose in the first round again. And I think, same situation. Very mediocre, make playoffs somehow, lose first round. That's how it's going to be. just how it is now. So I got for this segment. Next segment, stick with the NFL. We're going to Demaryius Thomas. So we'll talk about that after the break.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Welcome back to the GSMC Dead Ball Sports Podcast, hosted by GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Nolan Jammer. First two segments, talking NFL and NBA. Started talking about the NBA, talked about, last night's game and preview tonight's game. Last segment, we talked Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers situation, what's going on over there. Terry Bradshaw kind of laid the Steelers, a new one. Talked a little bit about that. This segment, number 4, we are talking Demaryius Thomas is in the Broncos Hall of Fame. So, Demaryius Thomas, he is, he's one of the all 2010, all-time great receivers. He was phenomenal with the Broncos back then. He was so good, and he really was just such a good player. And in 2021, I believe he passed away. Absolutely horrible. It was, kind of devastating to hear that, because it was literally, December. It was a few days before his 34th birthday. He was only 33 years old. And on December 9th, 2021, he passed away due to a seizure disorder, a complication of the seizure, a complication of a seizure disorder. That's what the coroner, the examiner's office kind of, determined it to be. But, he was phenomenal. Thomas, he was the only former player or coach to be selected for the honor on Tuesday. And the team's Ring of Fame committee kind of is headed up to the co-owners, Rob Walton, Greg, and Kerry Penner. So, those three have the decision of, who they induct into the Hall of Fame, which is pretty cool, I guess. But, it's kind of like a testament to the mark he left for the Broncos organization and, the community around him. And people loved him in Denver. And he was honestly one of the most beloved players, and he was one of the best receivers the Broncos ever saw. Honestly, like I said, one of the best receivers of the 2010s. Sorry, I spelled his name wrong in this thing, by the way. Let me close that. But he was so good. He was just so good of a player, and him passing away was honestly kind of a heartbreak. Because I grew up watching him play. Him and Peyton Manning. They were a great connection. Those two had a great connection together. It was absolutely brutal. And he will be, he'll be formally inducted into the team's alumni weekend in October with, on October 19th, their game against the Giants. That's when he'll be inducted, as an alumni, and then too, the official Hall of Fame for the Broncos. I think is really nice. Him passing away so young is just one of the most heartbreaking thing a fan or a family member could see. Only 33 years old. It's horrible. And he was a great receiver. He's a 5-time Pro Bowl selection. He was the first of, and he got drafted in 2010, but he was one of their he was one of the Broncos' first round picks that year. Tim Tebow was the other one. Kind of just shows you how high expectations he had. Being drafted alongside Tim Tebow, possibly the greatest college quarterback of all time. I mean, shows you how good he really was. And, he finished the career he is the Broncos' second all-time receiving yards, receiving leader, I guess you could say, with 9,000 behind Rod Smith. He was a great receiver back then. But yeah, I mean, he was only in such a short career. I think he played maybe 10 seasons, I believe. No. I don't know exactly how many. But he had a really short career and put up 9K receiving yards. I mean, it just shows you how dominant he was back then. I mean, he was so quick. He was like, I don't know. It was like, I grew up watching Megatron, Calvin Johnson for the Lions, because, like I said, I'm from Michigan. So, trying to compare him to someone else is pretty hard, because I want to compare him to Megatron, but, I can't do that. But he's just so quick and so good. I mean, Larry Fitzgerald wouldn't be a crazy comparison, but, I mean, he was so good. But he also is third in the third franchise history in catches, behind Rod Smith and Hall of Fame tight end Shannon Sharp. Shows you also how dominant he was. He did play 10 seasons in the NFL. He ended his career in 2016 with the Jets, and finished with a pretty solid stat line. Career-wise, 724 catches, 9,700 receiving yards, and 63 touchdowns. I mean, that's a pretty solid, all-time stat line to have. And it's a reason he dominated so much was not only because he was such a good receiver, having Hall of Fame quarterback behind you in the behind center in Peyton Manning. I mean, that's gonna help you dominate. I mean, he had in consecutive seasons, like back to back, and from 2012 to 2015, between those years, every season he had 90 receptions and 1,300 receiving yards in 4 consecutive seasons, and joining only a few other receivers all time have that stat line. Marvin Harrison and Jerry Rice are just to name 2. Shows you that puts him in some very, very elite company right there. And he was so good. There really isn't much more to say on how good and dominant he really was. He was so good. He was so quick off the ball. He was just such a good route runner. I mean, he really did it all for, wow, I just cracked my ankle. But, he really did it all for the Broncos. He was so good at everything he did. He was a great receiver, great teammate, great person. And him passing away was really devastating to, the NFL community, because when he passed away, it kind of hurt, a lot of, I guess, I wouldn't say older people, like older, fans, but even kids my age. Because, like I said, he was drafted in 2010, and I grew up watching him. I grew up watching, that era of football, and it was kind of sad. But, the day or the week after he passed, the Broncos actually played the Lions. And so I was kind of, watching, the ceremony, and it was really cool. They, the Lions, they got the ball first, and they let, the what's the word? The snap clock run out. I mean, show in honor of him. So I think that was, honestly a really beautiful thing to do. And the Broncos fans loved it. I mean, they were just really happy the Lions kind of just acknowledged, how much really he meant to the organization. I mean, he was so good. I mean, there's really not much more to say of a player. I mean, he's a great player, a great, great teammate, great friend. I mean, he was just a great player to be around. Peyton Manning loved him. He was the number one receiver, number one go-to guy for him. And he really loved him. So, him finally being able to be inducted on October 19th into not only the alumni, but, Hall of Fame for the Broncos. I mean, it really is beautiful. And it's kind of like, I would say like a circle of life, but it's just kind of like a full circle thing, him finally being back where he belongs in Denver. Obviously he's probably resting there. I'm not sure where he's where he was laid, but laid to rest. But I mean, he really did mean a lot to a whole generation of players, fans. I mean, he was so good. He may he forever rest in peace, but man, he was a great player. And him passing away so soon, so young, only at the age of 33, only days before his birthday as well. Absolute tragedy, but may he forever rest. And thankfully, he was honored honestly pretty quickly. I mean, it's only 3 or 4 years after after he retired and passed away, and was able to be inducted into that team. They basically inducted him as fast as they possibly could. No, he deserved it. I mean, he is their second all-time receiver, receiving yards leader, and third all-time in their receptions. So completely deserved it. May he rest in peace, and he was just so dominant. I'm really glad I got to grow up watching him. He was just that good. But that's all I got for this segment. Next segment, and the final segment, we're talking about the MLB. Whoa. So we'll get to that after the break. Welcome back to the GSMC Dead Ball Sports Podcast, hosted by GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Nolan Jammer. First few segments talked NBA and NFL. Started talking, segment 1, talk about last night's Knicks versus Pacers game. I'll recap that. Segment 2, talk about NBA tonight, which is OKC versus Minnesota Game 5. Preview that game. Segment number 3, talk about Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers, what's going on over there. And segment number 4, last segment, talk about Demaryius Thomas being inducted into the Broncos Hall of Fame. This final segment, number 5 for the day, we're talking about the MLB. And it's kind of, my personal rankings for that, like where a team should be. So let's talk about it. So the MLB is getting pretty good again. It's been a little while since it started. It's been about 2 months since the season started. And, there's just been some really some teams that have been playing great, some teams that haven't. Just want to talk about it. So, obviously to start, Dodgers, they're still the Dodgers. I mean, the Dodgers are still the best team in the MLB. They really are. I mean, they just lost. They lost to the Guardians. And the Guardians are a great team, but the Guardians bullpen is actually so good. I mean, they might have one of the best bullpens in the MLB. Their starters are just insane. Their relievers are throwing gas. I mean, their bullpen in Indiana, just in Cleveland, I guess, but they need to, whatever they got going on over there, they got to keep that up because their bullpen is just, God, that team is I wouldn't say they're underrated, but man, they're a really good team. But like I said, we saw, Dodgers are still in first. A team this year that has very, underperformed, I want to talk about the Baltimore Orioles. this team was a contender to be, a World Series favorite. And right now they're, I believe, for last. They're last in their division. They are horrible. They're like one of the worst teams in the MLB right now, record-wise. I mean, they are god-awful. I mean, it's really surprising because, this team has a lot of talent to them. And if you look at their roster, you would really think that, this team would be... Sorry, I'm looking at the live scores. I'm pulling up ESPN and kind of like look at the record. But, I mean... Oh, Tigers won too. Nice. But, I mean, I saw White Sox are winning 9-3 against the Mets. Surprising. But, I mean, yeah, the Orioles are 19-35. This is a team that, was supposed to be, like I said, a World Series contender and a favorite. They're currently last in the AL East, and they have the second to worst record in the AL. I mean, that's insane. In the entire MLB, they have the third worst record. I mean, this team is just... I mean, it's just surprising. It really is, because this team, like I said, is a team no one saw dropping this far. You look at their their players, and you think, like, this is a good team. Obviously, Gunnar Henderson, Jackson Holliday, Emmanuel Rivera. I mean, those are some really good infielders. Then you go look at their outfield, Daniel Carlson, Ryan O'Hearn, Cedric Mullins. I mean, that's a good team. That is a very, very good team to be looking at. But then their pitching is kind of where, I think they kind of fall short. I mean, you look at their starters who aren't horrible. Greg Soto, I'm the wrong pitcher. Cade Povich, Charlie Morton, Dean Kremer. I mean, their pitching is just not where it needs to be. That's the problem. I mean, they're just not, they're just not pitching. They really aren't. Their pitching isn't good, but it's not. Their hitting is great. Their hitting is actually not bad at all. Gunnar Henderson hitting 270 or 260. Jackson Holliday hitting 260, 265, 266 when it's kind of put in the middle there. Ryan O'Hearn 340. I mean, these guys are like this Orioles team is just the most surprising team to see fall as far as they have this year. This is the team that no one saw falling this far. And, a team that I saw falling, but, isn't a team they're playing, that Orioles are going to be playing, actually, the St. Louis Cardinals. The Cardinals have had a great year this year. They have had, sorry about this, I got my throat today, but this Cardinals team is something, I did not see coming. I did not see the Cardinals being, as good as because they're kind of just like a middle of the pack team, and, like, I don't really, take the Cardinals seriously. I haven't in the past. This year, when we just played them the Tigers have last series, they put up a really good fight against us. And, they're a really good team. And if you look at the roster, you can see that. Nolan Arenado, Jose Barreno, Nolan Gorman. You got two Nolans in the infield. I just realized that. My name's Nolan too. Nice. But, they have a very solid squad. They have a lot of, good hitters. It's good when your best hitter's hitting 328. That's going to help you a lot. But if you look at their batting average, their averages are good as well. 240, 250, 330 basically, 245, 240, 270, 260. They got some good, consistent hitters. You're going to be a dominant team with stats like that. You really will be. And, this season has been very surprising for, a lot of MLB fans. Like I said, a lot of teams are falling, that were underperforming. And a lot of teams are just bad, like the Rockies. I don't even want to talk about the Rockies. I just feel bad talking about the Rockies. They have 9 wins. They had the worst 50-game start in MLB history, and they might break the White Sox record for most amount of losses in a season already. Insane. But, the White Sox, they still stink. But, the Dodgers are still doing the Dodgers thing. Yankees are playing great baseball. The Padres are playing great. Mets playing great. The Tigers are playing really good. This has been an overall just a great season for, the MLB. I think it's always good when you see teams perform or, overperform, play better than they were exposed to. Underperform, it's not good to, watch your favorite team underperform. But let's say you don't like that team. Well, that's great to see. But, this has been a really good season for the MLB. I've been, every game I've tuned into, I have really enjoyed. Because, none of these games, a lot of these games are, keeping it pretty close. 1-2 run games. And I'm really enjoying, this season in a whole. I've been to a few games. I've been to a few games, planning on going to a few more throughout the summer. And honestly, I'm just excited, keep the season going. Come summertime, when it comes, like June, July, that's peak baseball. June, that's a few days away. And a few days away, here comes peak baseball, and I'm really excited to, see it happen. So, it's on the way. This season has been great, and I'm honestly just excited to keep seeing where it goes. So I got for you guys today. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the GSMC Dead Ball Sports Podcast, hosted by GSMC Sports Network. Your continuous support really means the world to us, so please feel free to like, comment, and share with anybody you know. If you wish to stay up to date with all things GSMC, make sure to follow us on our social media, whether that being, Instagram, Facebook, X/Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, whatever. Just get on social media, search GSMC Sports Network, hit us with that follow, and turn on post notifications so you know when we post an update. But like I said, thank you for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you all very soon. Have a good one.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go.